Hey everyone, this is Jackson again from the Popcorn Review Podcast. Today we'll be talking about AEW 289th episode on TBS and TNT. Dynamite with this episode actually surpasses WCW, so AEW, congratulations. Hopefully you guys have more years to come. Like to see what you guys are doing. Like to see what you guys are doing every week. This episode in general was one of the best episodes of AEW I've ever seen. I would definitely say that this is definitely building for the future. I'm only going to be covering day one of the spring breakthrough, so won't be covering anything for Thursday, but Wednesday I will be covering that. This episode started off with, you see there, Athena and Mercedes Moné, or four belts Mercedes Moné. They both came into their entrance. You had Athena, both belts around her waist for Ring of Honor, showing that she still is a champion going into this match. Mercedes dripped out, with all her gold, New Japan, and TBS title. So definitely showed her with everything going on. Nice to see that these two girls were going at it. I don't remember if they wrestled in WWE, but this is the first time they've wrestled in AEW. This match, guys, was all over the place. People like to call these kind of matches bangers, or they put on a banger, 5-star match, whatever you guys want to call it. These girls did not let me down. This was a great opening match to get the crowd going. You definitely had these two girls putting it all out there. There was a couple times that they did mess up, so I'm not going to lie about that. But three amigos from Mercedes there went for the fourth, got stopped. You had Athena, like a triple power bomb at one point. You had Mercedes Moné, tornado DDT off the rope, and then a spike DDT in the middle of the ring. Athena with a shotgun drop kick on the outside. Again, these girls were rolling in and out of the ring. At one point, she had on her, Mercedes had on her submission. They ended up rolling out of the ring, and they rolled out in front of the commentator's table, and she's still trying to make her tap out, talking about tap out, bitch, tap out. So this match was insane. These girls definitely put on a great match. You had after the match was won, you did see Mercedes, hold the tights or the trunks of Athena at the end to get the win. She is a heel. She was in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. So the crowd was really behind her. She was almost like a baby face here, if that makes sense to anybody. Athena definitely looked like she was the heel in this match. But, Mercedes did roll it up. And then once that match ended, you had Tony Storm up in the top, kind of clapping it up for the girls, having a good show. Her music hits, and congratulations to everybody that was there. All around, great match. Definitely see that these girls are going to wrestle again in the future. Not sure when or where, but it could be as simple as, Athena tries to get her get back, costs Mercedes the match, and then her and Mercedes are at the next pay-per-view that's coming, so that'd be kind of nice to see. Again, don't know where AEW's cards lie, but would be nice to see. You also had a number of matches today. The Hurt Syndicate versus the Gates of Agony. um it was a pretty good match, to be honest with you. It was nice to see the Hurt Syndicate against people, and not just like the local crowd or the local indie wrestlers. They actually had someone they can actually wrestle against. They all look strong in this match. Yes, we knew that the Gates of Agony were going to lose. We understand that. I think they're more of the Ring of Honor brand. So the Gates of Agony have been there. They came in with Prince Nana at one point. Great match between the two. Showed everybody strong. Shelton Benjamin looked strong. Um, everything looks great in this match. Bobby Lashley spearing the shit out of everybody. Shelton Benjamin hitting somebody with the knee, spear, boom, 1, 2, 3, get the win. Great match. Again, we knew that the Hurt Syndicate was gonna win. Didn't see that not happening. Little bit again, they're about to celebrate. They got their belts on their shoulders, about to celebrate. Whose music hits? MJF. So he comes to the ring, congratulates Sheldon, congratulates MVP, and like normal, he just starts talking shit to Bobby Lashley, calling him Bob. Bobby Lashley don't want him there, like I've been saying for the past few weeks, that he was gonna have an issue with MJF in the group. You did have MJF's like, hey, let me just tell y'all something. I got something for y'all. and then he like has music playing, and then you see like 6 or 7 girls come out dressed all in black. um Hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but I definitely got like from WWF, the Godfather with his whole train. So again, hopefully I don't offend anybody, but that's kind of the vibe I got. He was introducing these women to the Hurt Syndicate. Sheldon Benjamin looked intrigued. MVP looked intrigued. Bobby Lashley was kind of had like a stank look on his face, like almost like "don't touch me" type of deal. I'm not sure if MJF and Sheldon Benjamin are married, but I know Bobby Lashley is. So that might be kind of why was kind of hesitant for having these girls like rub on his body and stuff. Sheldon was very taken by it. MVP was taken by it. MJF was like, "Hey, you guys can have these girls go out, have a great time on me. It is what it is." But you did see Sheldon go, "Hey, I need some time." And at first I thought he was saying, "Hey, let me take these girls out and then, I'll get back to you," type of deal. But no, he said, "I need some time. Like, I need your Rolex, I need your watch." So, he took it all, gave it to him. Here's a present for me. You can have the ladies and have the watch. So he gives him the watch off his wrist. And then, him and Bobby kind of still have words. Bobby looks at the crowd like, "Do y'all want him? Do y'all want him?" And then, the crowd's kind of saying yes. They go for a vote again. MVP's like, "You guys know how I feel. You guys know how I feel." He gives them the okay. Sheldon goes like this again, looks at Bobby, and then nah, give him the no. So even though he took his watch off his wrist, he still gave him the no. MJF walks off. "Hey, you guys think about it. You guys think about it." They go to the back. They do have like a little segment with the women in the back there, and you do see them talking. "Hey, man, this is just about business," type of deal. And MJF was like, "Yo, let's just use them. We'll use them." And then Bobby goes, "And then we could hurt him." So it looks like they're going to try to turn on MJF. But, the last time someone tried to turn on MJF, he brought out his own group called the Pinnacle. So I definitely see that being the case. MJF may be turning on them first before they could turn on him. So we'll see how that works out. But again, guys, I do not see MJF joining the Hurt Syndicate. And if he does join, Bobby Lashley wants nothing to do with it, nothing at all. Um, Definitely see that being a feud down the future or in the future, even if MJF cost them the tag titles, and that's kind of how him and Bobby finally bump heads and take a match there. Again, guys, this match was crazy so far. This episode is insane. Again, one of the best episodes I've seen. You did have Will Ospreay versus Takesha for their also the men's version of the Owen Hart tournament. Um, their music hits and you hear "fuck Don Callis." Like, they hate that dude. They cannot stand Don Callis at all. Um, I would say these guys had one of the best matches I've seen. Every time these two guys are in the ring, they have an awesome match. These guys have great chemistry together. Yeah, they're rivals and everything, but these guys have great chemistry together and they trust the hell out of each other. There's no way in hell you're going to get into a match with someone like this and not have chemistry and not trust someone. These guys definitely have each other's backs. Even though they look like they hate each other in the ring, they definitely have each other's back, looking out for each other. I would say they were pulling off each other's moves, Blue Thunder Bomb, Hidden Blade. They were doing each other's moves. You had the Styles Clash in this match. You had what was the other stuff? Uh Actually, those are the only ones I can remember. But these guys were going back and forth, and it kind of sucks because they're trying to show Takeshita as like a strong force, and he's a good wrestler. Takeshita, I would say, out of everybody they brought from Japan, in my opinion, has been one of the best wrestlers there. The other guys haven't shown me much, but Takeshita for sure has shown me a lot. He's grown a lot. He's putting on great matches with anybody that he wrestles. Yes, they have Don Callis there as the mouthpiece because Takeshita, English isn't his first language, so he's still learning that. Having Don Callis there is a great idea. Ospreay wins. Don Callis' family kind of rolls off, and it is what it is. Later on, you had Hangman Adam Page versus the wild card. Hangman came in first. Everybody's cheering for him. You did have um, Josh Alexander. He used to be in TNA. I personally don't know who Josh Alexander is. I know that he's a two-time TNA champion, but that's just me just watching clips on YouTube and stuff like that. I haven't watched TNA in years. I think the last time I watched it was maybe when like Bully Ray was there, and that was years ago. So again, don't hate me for not knowing who this guy is. It was a great match though. They said that these guys have wrestled before. You could definitely see that the chemistry was there. Josh Alexander kind of came in, I would say, a face, but people were cheering for him. These guys were doing moves to each other that you can definitely tell that they were trusting each other. Um, Hangman did like a jump off the stage over some of the crowd that was by the stage to clothesline Sean Alexander there over the barricade. Um, you had an outside moonsault, then a power bomb. Alexander kicks out at 2, which these guys, it was like a real close 2, like right there. So these guys had a great match. After that, Sean Alexander wins. A lot of people on social media were saying they were upset that Sean lost his first match, but I think they're trying to build Swerve versus Hangman later on, like I mentioned in one of my previous videos. See those two guys wrestling in Texas, so it makes a lot of sense to keep Hangman there. I don't think Sean Alexander was going to win, and if he did win, he wasn't going to move on to the finals. Doesn't make sense to have a brand new guy kind of surpass everybody, especially with the storylines they have with Swerve and Hangman. Kyle Fletcher does come out because he is in the next opponent for whoever one of these two guys. Kyle Fletcher comes out. You had him coming to the ring. Hangman start going at it. You saw Sean Alexander to the side. They did mention while during their match that Sean Alexander was from Canada. It's nice to have a proud Canadian in this tournament because Owen Hart was from Canada, so that was nice to see. But then you see like Don Callis kind of in his ear telling him something. The man joins the Don Callis family. Makes a lot of sense. Just they're gonna say something to the effect like, "Oh, I know this guy for years," and use that to bring him into the Don Callis family. Don Callis family looks strong. They kind of take out Hangman there. For a while, he did get the better. Hangman did get the better of Kyle Fletcher, but when Sean Alexander took his back, that's kind of what took him out there. And then Don Callis rings out again. The crowd hates that guy. He's been actually having a few guys during a few I would say dynamites that I've seen. People are like cosplaying him as far as they're drawing the scar on their head and even like putting self tanner on to make them look like Don Callis. There's been a few guys that actually looked exactly like Don Callis, like almost like a clone. So that's actually pretty funny. He's has like a big following, but a lot of people cannot stand Don Callis. Um, at the end of the match, you did have, or at the end of the day, you did have the Death Riders versus the Ops minus Hook. Apparently, they said that Hook was taken out by the Death Riders, so the Death Riders took one guy out before the match, and then Pac was also the Bastard was also out because one of the Ops took him out the week before. So John Moxley stepped in for him. And then you saw the Ops come out, one guy down, and then Powerhouse Hobbs music hits. And I've mentioned this before in my previous video. They got to do something with Powerhouse Hobbs, make him a tag team or a singles champion. This made a lot of sense to put Powerhouse Hobbs in there. They haven't done nothing with Powerhouse Hobbs. He deserves to be a champion. In my opinion, again, guys, if y'all disagree, we disagree. But that's it. Powerhouse Hobbs deserves to do something. They haven't done nothing with that guy. Um, they just go back and forth. It was pretty crazy. Once Powerhouse Hobbs was returned, in my opinion, the only person that can possibly stand up to him might be Claudio. He's just a big, massive guy. Even when he was in the ring with Yuta, people kept yelling meat, meat, meat. Like I said before, every time that guy's in the ring, the crowd's just yelling meat. And it's just funny to hear because Big E says that all the time in WWE. He likes seeing matches with big guys because he's a big guy, so he likes to see those guys flourish. This match had everything, guys. It had a lot of interference. Towards the end of the match, you had Marina Shafir kind of like hit Hobbs with a chair a few times. She took out his knee, so Hobbs was kind of laid out. Then you had John Moxley there, kind of upset because they were losing, so he grabs a chair, walks around all the way around the ring for whatever reason, gets on a little ramp stage that they had. And right before he takes the swing or tries to get into the ring, you see Willow pull the chair from behind him, which was nice. Willow's already having a problem with Marina Shafir, like I've mentioned. They should definitely have a match somewhere down the line. You didn't see the Young Bucks come out for whatever reason. They were looking for chairs as well. They get into the corner by like where everybody jumps in most of the time, and they went to grab the chair. Out of nowhere, you see like a hooded figure grab the chair from one of them. Ends up being Swerve. He pulls off his hood, jumps on the barricade. Swerve stomps both of the Young Bucks. He did say he was going Young Buck hunting season, and he definitely started that there. Um, this match had everything, guys. It was a nice to see. Samoa Joe, after he had the interference with the faces or the good guys of AEW, Samoa Joe ends up choking out Jon Moxley, showing that Jon Moxley is not invincible. Showing that Jon Moxley is not the guy you think he is. Choked him out in the center of the ring. Then what happens? The Ops wins. They have a huge celebration. You have Will Ospreay come out with some bubbly there. You had Willow there celebrating. I think you had like Speedball. You had, if I'm not mistaken, Top Flight was in the ring. Just a bunch of, the faces or the good guys in AEW come and celebrate. Heard a lot of backlash saying that they should have saved this for when Jon Moxley loses the title. But this is kind of showing you that Jon Moxley or the Death Riders are maybe coming to an end. They haven't done much with the trios titles. You did see Shibata and what's his name, Samoa Joe grabbed the belts, and Hobbs was kind of like waiting in the corner like this, like what they gonna do with the title, because technically Hook was supposed to wrestle. And then he looks at Hobbs and he hands Hobbs the belt. Hobbs throws it over his shoulder. Everybody starts celebrating. Prince Nana's messing around with the bubbly, spraying everybody. Swerve is laughing. Swerve is celebrating. Everybody's celebrating. And just a great ending to that show. Great segment. Again, a lot of people don't like the fact that you had this celebration during the trios titles, but at the same time, it shows that the Death Riders aren't invincible. The Death Riders aren't all that. The Death Riders aren't the best thing in AEW. Now, with them losing the trios titles, they may join the Young Bucks and the Elite to try to take over the belts again or hold on to the world title. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, a great episode. Hope Hook's okay. Hopefully there's nothing major. It was just part of the story. Maybe Hook goes for a singles title himself. But again, guys, this was AEW episode 289, surpassing WCW.